Hi, in this video we'll be learning about subject and predicate. Very often we tend to ignore this concept of subject and predicate, but it is very essential to know what is the subject of a sentence because it helps us to find out the correct verb which should be attached to that particular subject. It helps us in understanding the subject-verb agreement and frame the correct sentence accordingly. So let's see what actually is a subject. Subject is basically the protagonist of the sentence, because when we make a sentence, we talk about something, somebody or some person, and it plays the active role in the entire sentence. Subject is like the queen bee in a beehive basically. Depending on its requirement, other ancillaries are joined. For instance, if you know the subject well, depending whether the subject is singular or plural, you'll be able to attach the verb. Suppose you have a singular subject, you need to put the respective verb here. Additionally, whatever is told about the subject falls under the category of predicate. So whatever comes outside this parameter is basically the predicate. So let's see the definition. When we make a sentence, we name some person or thing and say something about that person or thing. In other words, we must have a subject to speak about, and we must say or predicate something about that subject. Hence, every sentence has two parts. The part which names the person or thing we are speaking about, this is called the subject of the sentence. The part which tells something about the subject, this is called the predicate of the sentence. As simple as that. Few additional information about the subject. The subject of a sentence usually comes first, but not always. But occasionally it is put after the predicate. Let's see an example related to this. Here comes the bus. So what is the subject here? The bus is the subject. Sweet are the uses of adversity. What is the subject here? Uses. In an imperative sentence, the subject is left out. You have to be very careful about these kind of sentences. For example, sit down. So where is the subject here? There is no particular subject here. So it is understood that it means that you sit down, where you is hidden. Thank him. Here too the subject is you, which is hidden, and it is understood by the reader. Let us do a small exercise which will help us to understand subject and predicate better. Let us try to find out the subject in each and every sentence. You can pause the video, take a couple of minutes and trace the subjects in these sentences. So let's begin. The singing of the birds delights us. This is a very good question, a little tricky one also. Many of us will mark the answer as birds. But is the word birds the correct subject? No, it is wrong. We need to ask the question that what delights us. First of all, if you see, delights is referring to a singular subject. So the correct subject would be singing. What delights us? Singing delights. So the correct subject is singing, and the correct verb is delights. Hope you understand what I am trying to convey. You need to trace the subject aptly and then follow it with respective verb. Miss Kitty was rude at the table one day. So the subject is Kitty. He has a good memory. Bad habits grow unconsciously. Bad habits is plural, so that's why we are using grow. The earth revolves around the earth. Earth is the subject. Nature is the best physician. Nature is the subject. Harry was a nice man. Harry, the wooden cupboard has been painted black. Now what is the subject here? The subject is the wooden cupboard or just cupboard. So let me specify the subject is just cupboard. The wooden is just giving additional information and it's qualifying cupboard. In the next sentence also, please trace the correct subject. The non-violence policy of Mahatma Gandhi was instrumental in shaping India's struggle for independence. So the subject here is Mahatma Gandhi? No, subject is not Mahatma Gandhi. What is the subject? The non-violence policy. It is also not correct. What is the correct answer? The correct answer is just policy. What is the subject? Policy. Non-violence is merely qualifying policy and is giving additional information about policy. So you need to match this subject with the correct verb. So the correct verb for policy is was. So hope you have understood what I am trying to convey. A barking sound the shepherd hears. So what is the subject here? Is the subject sound or the shepherd? Well, this is a tricky one. In order to analyze this sentence, you need to do subject-verb inversion and rewrite this sentence as the shepherd hears a barking sound. Now it is very easy to trace the correct subject. The subject is shepherd. Let's move on to the next sentence. How he did it is surprising. How he did it is the subject here. Sometimes an entire clause behaves as the subject for the complete sentence. We'll be doing more examples when we'll be discussing independent and dependent clauses. I hope that I have given you the basic idea about subject and predicate. So we'll move on to the next video on the phrases and the clause. Thank you very much.